What's up everyone? Welcome back to Magic Game World. Now, I know the channel name usually promises fireballs and dragons, but 2026 is looking so stacked for medieval fans that we actually have to start with the games that are ditching the magic entirely. We're talking about the steel and mud era of gaming, titles that are obsessed with the grit, the history, and the brutal reality of what it was actually like to survive the Middle Ages. The one leading that charge is Half Sword, and if you haven't seen the physics clips for this yet, you're in for a shock. It's set in the 15th century, and it's basically a full-blown physics simulator. There are no preset attack animations here. If you swing your sword and it catches a piece of plate armor at a weird angle, it's just going to skitter off and leave a spark. You can genuinely feel the weight of the gear and the clumsiness of a real fight. By the time the full version drops in early 2026, it's likely going to be the gold standard for anyone who thinks modern combat has become too floaty or arcade-light. But maybe you want more than just a duel. Maybe you want the whole life of a knight. That's where Kinstrife comes in. This one is set in 13th century Germany, and the developers have been very vocal about their no dragons, no zombies policy. This is a single-player knight simulator where you're navigating the cutthroat politics of the Holy Roman Empire, winning tournaments to build your reputation, and managing a retinue of followers. It has that heavy, physics-driven combat, but it wraps it in a social and economic climb that feels incredibly grounded and authentic. If that's still not big enough for you, you've got to keep an eye on Chronicles Medieval. This is for the people who love the idea of Mount and Blade but want that modern AAA polish. It's set in 1313 AD, and it's a total sandbox. You start as a nobody, a literal peasant, and you have to carve out a legacy. The scale here is what's really impressive. We're talking real-time battles with thousands of units on screen. No hero powers or magic buffs here, just troop positioning, morale, and making sure your supply lines don't get cut off in the middle of a winter siege. To round out this realistic side of things, we have 1348 x Voto. This takes us to plague-ridden Italy, and it is bleak. The team is using actual HEMA manuals to build their combat system, so it's less about being a superhero and more about the footwork, the timing, and the terrifying reality that a single sword wound in 1348 usually meant you weren't making it to the next chapter. Now, as much as I love the mud and the realism, eventually you're going to want to see a castle get leveled by a spell. That's why the second half of 2026 is looking like a dream come true for fantasy fans. The heavy hitter everyone is watching is Crimson Desert, which is expected to land in March. You play as Cliff, a mercenary leader in the war-torn continent of Pywell. The combat looks like a wild mix of The Witcher and God of War, with these massive cinematic boss fights and a world that is just overflowing with detail. It's got that gritty medieval aesthetic, but the fantasy elements are dialed up to 11. Then we have the return of a legend with the Fable Reboot. Playground Games is bringing us back to Albion, and from everything we've seen, they're nailing that specific British humor and whimsical yet dark atmosphere. It's a total fresh start for the series, so expect a modernized combat system and a world that actually reacts to whether you're being a hero or a total menace. If you want something a bit darker, keep an eye on The Blood of Dawnwalker. This is coming from a team of ex-Witcher developers, and you can really see that DNA in the footage. It's set in a dark version of 14th century Europe, where you play as a human vampire hybrid. You've got a ticking clock to save your family, and you're constantly balancing your humanity against your need to use vampiric powers to survive. It's moody, it's violent, and the storytelling is expected to be top tier. And for the MMO fans who have moved over to action RPGs, ArcheAge Chronicles is looking massive, moving away from the traditional MMO feel and leaning much harder into high-octane combat and exploration in the land of Aurora. While the action games are getting all the hype, the final thing we have to talk about is the side of 2026 that's all about the tactical mind. This is where Tabletop Tavern comes in, and honestly, this might be the most addictive game on the entire list. It's a total love letter to anyone who grew up playing with miniatures or tabletop war games. This is an RTS built for roguelike fans, where you're recruiting a wild roster of mercenaries straight off the pages of a Tolkien novel. You aren't just leading humans, you're commanding elite Viking infantry, monstrous orc trolls and giants, agile elven archers, and resilient dwarven artillery. Every encounter challenges your strategic instincts, from small skirmishes to massive clashes with hundreds of units on screen. Between battles, you're managing your roster, facing difficult choices, and discovering rare gear that permanently alters your strategy. It's got that just one more run hook, mixed with a deep faction system where every hero has abilities that change how you craft your army. It's the perfect bridge between that classic fantasy feel and deep tactical strategy. And if you want a different kind of tactical challenge, there's Blight, medieval extraction horror. This is a 4-player co-op game set in a no man's land between two warring kingdoms, but there's a supernatural plague turning the dead into monsters. It's gritty, it's terrifying, and it's the perfect way to round out a year that is absolutely spoiled for choice. So, whether you're looking for the historical accuracy of a knight simulator, the high fantasy scale of an epic RPG, or the tactical chaos of a tabletop battlefield, 2026 is going to be a legendary year. Which of these is going straight to the top of your wish list? Are you going for the realism, or are you sticking with the magic? Drop a comment below and let me know, because I'm curious to see what you guys are leaning toward. If you enjoyed the breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe to Magic Game World for more. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next one.